Hi Reddit. Throwaway account, because this is definitely going to blow up in the family group chat. Let me set the stage first. I, a 29F, have been married to my husband Ethan, 31M, for almost 3 years. We've been together for 5. I've had a diagnosed lactose intolerance since I was a teenager. It's not a mild gassy later kind of issue, it's full-blown stomach cramping, nausea, and often hours in the bathroom, if you catch my drift. When I first met Ethan's family, they were a lot. His mom, Diane, 59F, is the kind of woman who talks with a smile and judges with her eyes. She's a Southern hospitality meets passive aggression type. The first thing she ever said to me was, "Oh honey, you're even thinner in person. You sure you're eating enough?" while giving me a full up and down. Anyway, the food issue started subtly. At first, I'd politely decline dishes at family dinners that had obvious dairy, cheesy casseroles, creamy soups, etc. Diane always made these dramatic "oh dear, I forgot to" faces, followed by, "well, just pick around it." At first, I chalked it up to her just being set in her ways. But then, I started feeling sick after meals where she insisted something was dairy-free. A vegan pasta that mysteriously tasted like it had butter. A coconut cream pie that tasted suspiciously like regular whipped cream. I'd ask Ethan, and he'd say maybe she just used a substitute that's richer. But my body doesn't lie. After the 3rd or 4th time I was left doubled over in our bathroom, I began to get suspicious. I voiced my concerns to Ethan. He was hesitant at first, he loves his mom, but to his credit, he didn't dismiss me. He agreed to gently bring it up with her. He told her I'd been getting sick, and asked if maybe she double-checked the ingredients she was using. Diane responded with a text that said, and I quote, "Oh for heaven's sake, you millennials, and your made-up allergies. Back in my day, people ate what they were served and didn't whine about it." So yeah. That pretty much confirmed it for me, this woman did not believe me. I started avoiding family dinners, or I'd eat beforehand. Diane caught on and began asking Ethan if I was too good for her cooking now. She made little digs. At one point, she gave me a cookbook for Christmas called Cooking for Picky Eaters, How to Get Your Family to Eat Real Food. I wanted to keep the peace, so I let it go. Until 2 weeks ago. We were invited to a Sunday family dinner at Diane's house. It was supposed to be a big get-together. Ethan's younger sister Taylor, 28F, was bringing her new fiancé, and it was the first time the whole family would be together in months. I decided it was time to set a trap. I told Diane in the group chat that I'd love to contribute a dish and asked what she was making. She said she'd be doing her famous chicken Alfredo, strike 1, and a Caesar salad with homemade croutons and real dressing, strike 2. I volunteered to bring a side dish, and this time, I made sure it was something I'd made a million times, baked vegan mac and cheese using cashew cream, nutritional yeast, and gluten-free pasta. It's delicious and totally safe for me. Here's where I got a little sneaky. I made 2 identical versions of the dish. One labeled vegan mac and cheese with the real ingredients. The other one, visually identical, had a generous helping of real cheddar, whole milk, and butter. I even used the same style glass dish. Only I knew which was which. At dinner, I waited for the moment Diane would go snooping. And she did. I caught her in the kitchen when she thought no one was looking, tasting one of the dishes and then nodding. I had intentionally brought the real dairy version in a slightly warmer dish so she'd go for it. 10 minutes later, she was raving at the table. Now this is what I'm talking about. See, even you can make something that actually tastes good, Melissa. I smiled. Ethan gave me a side eye. I just said sweetly, "Oh, I'm glad you like it. I made sure it was completely dairy-free just for you." Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. She gave a tight smile and said, "Oh, come on, don't lie to me. This has cheese in it. You can't get flavor like that from tofu." I shrugged. "Nope. Cashews and nutritional yeast. I can give you the recipe if you'd like." She looked visibly uncomfortable, but dropped it. I waited. About 3 hours later, right as everyone was sitting down to dessert and coffee, I excused myself to the bathroom, dramatically. I made sure I looked pale, wiped my forehead with a napkin on the way, and groaned just loud enough for people to hear. A few minutes later, Ethan came to check on me. I told him everything, quietly, in the bathroom. That I knew his mom had been messing with my food. That I set her up to prove it. That the dish everyone ate was the real dairy one, and the one she sampled in a kitchen was the one she switched in before bringing it to the table. His face turned white. He asked, "Wait, are you okay though?" I told him yes, because I had only eaten the real dairy one at the start, when I took a scoop from the switched dish for appearances. I spit it out in the napkin, pretended to chew, and only ate the actual vegan version I had portioned out earlier and hidden in a thermos in my purse. I was totally fine. Ethan looked stunned. He went back to the table, and I stayed in the bathroom for 10 more minutes, to sell the sickness. When I came out, I had my moment. I walked slowly to the table, took a shaky sip of water, and said to Diane, "You know, it's funny. I felt fine all day. The only thing that could have triggered me is that mac and cheese. But you told me it tasted like real dairy. So, I guess we're both confused." She froze. Everyone looked at her. That's when Ethan stood up and said, "Mom, did you switch the dishes when Melissa wasn't looking?" Diane's mouth opened, then shut. Then she laughed. "Well," she said, "I guess the cat's out of the bag." Silence. You could have heard a pin drop, right there at that pristine dining table. Diane's chuckle faded fast when no one else joined in. "Wait, you actually switched the dishes?" Taylor's fiancé, Jordan, 33M, asked, fork frozen mid-bite. Diane rolled her eyes like we were all being so very dramatic. "It's not like I poisoned her. Look, I've suspected for a long time that this whole lactose thing was just selective." I blinked. "Selective?" I repeated, trying to stay composed. She sighed like she was explaining the concept of gravity to a toddler. "Yes. I mean, you're always avoiding something. First dairy, now gluten sometimes, then that weird coconut yogurt in your fridge? You don't eat red meat, you don't do sugar, and now you bring your own food to my dinners? I just wanted to see if maybe, I don't know, it was in your head." Ethan pushed back his chair. "Mom, you gave my wife something that could make her seriously ill just to test if she was faking?" Diane raised her brows. "Ethan, don't be naive. I've seen this before, people convince themselves they're allergic to everything so they can feel special. You were a picky eater too as a kid, remember? Outgrew it." He stared at her like he didn't even recognize her anymore. Taylor chimed in then, clearly uncomfortable. "Okay, but that still doesn't explain why you lied and switched the food. That's just messed up, Mom." Diane's face hardened. "No one lied. I just wanted to confirm something. And I was right, wasn't I? Melissa wasn't sick. She looked totally fine all night, until she pretended to get sick. So who's the liar?" I nearly laughed. "You're not even denying it. You straight up admit you tampered with my food, and now you're blaming me?" Diane shrugged. "You embarrassed me in my own home. Over some cheese." I looked to the rest of the table. Ethan's younger brother, Brandon, 24M, looked between us like he was watching a slow-motion car crash. His girlfriend Zoe, 22F, had stopped eating entirely and was staring at her plate. Then Ethan spoke again. "Quiet. Cold. This isn't the first time, is it?" Diane squinted. "Excuse me? This isn't the first time you've done something to her food. Melissa's gotten sick after your meals before. Meals you claimed were dairy-free." Diane scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. If she's gotten sick, maybe she's just sensitive to something else. Then why switch the dishes?" I asked. "Why go behind my back if you didn't have something to hide?" The tension was unbearable. Jordan cleared his throat. "Sorry, I don't know all the history here, but this feels like a big violation. If someone did that to me, I'd be furious. Food stuff is serious." Taylor nodded slowly. "Honestly? I always thought Mom was a little pushy with food stuff, but this is another level. Diane looked around the table, her expression souring fast. She realized she was losing them. Oh, come on. It was a simple test. Melissa's not even sick right now. And you're all acting like I tried to kill someone. I leaned in a little. No, Diane. You didn't try to kill me. You tried to humiliate me. And you just admitted it. In front of your entire family. She was flushed now. I just don't like being lied to. All this performative I can't eat this, I can't eat that. You know, maybe I'd believe you more if you weren't constantly making a show of it. Ethan stood up. She's been nothing but respectful. You're the one who's made a show, texting her passive-aggressive memes, giving her that picky eater cookbook, whispering to relatives about her not eating real food. Diane's eyes darted toward Taylor. You told him that? Taylor lifted her hands. I didn't have to. He saw it himself. Zoe finally spoke up. Honestly, Mrs. Claiborne, this is kinda psycho behavior. You could have triggered an allergy or worse. Diane's jaw clenched. Lactose intolerance isn't a real allergy, sweetheart. Zoe just blinked. You're not a doctor. That shut her up. At that point, Ethan turned to me and said, let's go. But I wasn't done yet. As I stood, I pulled out my phone and said, just so no one forgets what happened here, I'd like to make it clear. Diane Claiborne intentionally served me food she knew would make me sick to prove a point. Diane snapped, don't you dare record me. Not recording, I said calmly. Just documenting. For the inevitable Melissa overreacted narrative I know you'll try to spin after this. We left. Just stood up and walked out. Ethan didn't say goodbye. Neither did I. In the car, Ethan gripped the wheel and said, you were right. All along. And I didn't want to believe it. I told him it was okay. But inside, I was still boiling. Then my phone started blowing up. Texts from Taylor. From Brandon. From Zoe. Even one from Ethan's dad, Greg, 61M, who's divorced from Diane and rarely gets involved in anything. He wrote, I'm sorry. This isn't the first time she's pulled crap like this. Wish I had stopped it sooner. That last part hit harder than I expected. That night after we left Diane's house, Ethan and I barely spoke. Not out of anger, just stunned silence. The kind of silence where you know something just changed for good. We got home, and I immediately took a long, hot shower while Ethan fielded a dozen texts from various family members. Apparently, after we left, the dinner fell apart fast. Taylor and Jordan left early. Brandon and Zoe, too. Dessert was untouched. No one wanted coffee. Diane apparently stormed into the kitchen and didn't come out for 20 minutes. Later that night, I got a message from Taylor. She said, I know tonight was rough, but thank you for handling it the way you did. Honestly, it was long overdue. The next morning, it got worse. We both woke up to a message in the family group chat titled Last Night's Misunderstanding. It was a wall of text from Diane. I'd like to apologize to anyone who felt uncomfortable last night. I was only trying to prove a point, and I admit my methods may have seemed dramatic. But I truly believed Melissa was exaggerating her condition, and I felt hurt by her constant rejection of my food. That being said, I don't appreciate being ambushed and made to look like some kind of villain in my own home. I think apologies are due on both sides. I'll be taking some space to reflect, and I'd appreciate some respect during that time. Cue the flood of private texts from Taylor. She's spinning it like you attacked her. Already texting aunts and cousins saying you faked being sick to embarrass her. Followed by Zoe. Just FYI, Diane's calling everyone saying you staged a meltdown and manipulated Ethan into turning on his own mother. She's playing the martyr. I won't lie, I wanted to blow up the group chat with screenshots, timelines, hell, even a PowerPoint if it came to that. But Ethan said, let's wait. Give it a day. People saw what happened. Let it breathe. And he was right. Because that afternoon, we got a call from Greg, Ethan's dad. This man has been mostly uninvolved since the divorce. Lives in Arizona, sends birthday cards, calls on holidays. But apparently, word traveled fast and he wanted to talk. He asked me privately if Diane had ever done anything like this before. I hesitated and then gave him the full history. The weird text messages. The cookbook. The passive-aggressive comments. The previous dinners that made me sick despite being labeled safe. The accidental sprinklings of Parmesan. Greg was quiet for a moment, then said something I won't forget. When we were married, Diane used to test me too. She'd make a pot of decaf and secretly spike it with regular just to see if I was faking my sensitivity. I'd be up all night with palpitations, and she'd smirk and say I was imagining it. She's always had this thing about control and punishing people who don't fall in line. That floored me. He wasn't surprised. Not even a little. The following day, the real fallout began. Taylor texted me a screenshot from a separate group chat Diane had made, without Ethan and me, of course, with all the extended family. The message read, "I need support right now. Melissa staged a public humiliation against me over a fake allergy, and Ethan is enabling it. They are trying to turn the family against me because I dared to question their truth." But here's the kicker. Right underneath her message, Taylor replied with one simple sentence. "You admitted to switching the food. We all heard you." Silence. Then Brandon chimed in. "I watched you eat the mac and cheese and tell her it finally tasted real. You thought you caught her lying. You didn't. You exposed yourself." Then Zoe, God bless her, added, "This is abusive behavior, Diane. And I don't think any of us are okay with it." That group chat went dead silent after that. 2 days later, Ethan got a call from his Aunt Denise, his mom's sister, who was furious. But not at us. Apparently, Diane had tried to pre-spin the story by claiming I'd deliberately poisoned the food with some weird fake dairy chemical to frame her. Denise had shown up at her house demanding answers and walked out when Diane doubled down. She told Ethan, "If your mom doesn't apologize, she's going to end up completely alone. She's alienating everyone." Ethan told her flatly, she made her choice. The worst part? Diane still hasn't apologized. Not really. Not directly. Instead, she's continued to send cryptic guilt trip messages to Ethan, like, "I carried you in my body for 9 months and now I'm the bad guy because of some mac and cheese? I hope your wife is worth destroying your relationship with your mother. When you have kids of your own, you'll understand what it's like to be rejected by your own family." Ethan blocked her number for now. But the family? Oh, they're not buying her version anymore. Taylor came over a few nights ago and told us that Diane used to do this kind of testing when they were kids, too. She'd put vegetables in baked goods to see if they'd notice. She once lied to Taylor about sunscreen being in her beach bag. Taylor got a second-degree burn and Diane called it a valuable lesson. It wasn't about food. It was about control. About trust. About always being right. Now that we pulled the thread, the whole sweater's unraveling. About a week after the dinner blow-up, things had gone mostly quiet. The family group chat had splintered into microchats. Some members stayed silent, others quietly messaged their support. Diane was radio silent. Ethan was still holding his ground, but I could see the tension building in him. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about his entire worldview of who his mother was. Then came the envelope. Not a text. Not an email. A handwritten letter, delivered via USPS in a floral card envelope addressed to Ethan, with a return label from Diane. Inside, 2 pages of slanted, cursive writing on thick lavender stationery. The kind she uses when she wants to play the Southern matriarch card. It read, in short, "I see now that I may have overstepped boundaries. I understand you and Melissa are upset, and I am deeply sorry for any pain caused. I never meant to hurt her, only to help her see what's real. That said, this family has been through too much to be torn apart over a simple misunderstanding. I'd like to invite you both to a small dinner next weekend, just the three of us. No drama. No tricks. Just a clean slate. I'll even let Melissa choose the menu. No mention of what she did. No direct admission. Just enough half apology to bait sympathy and retain deniability. Ethan read it, then looked at me. What do you think? I said, what do you think? He hesitated. I think she's cornered. And she's trying to flip the narrative back in her favor. Make herself the bigger person in front of whoever still believes her. He wasn't wrong. But against my instincts, I said, I'll go. On one condition. We'd record everything. Not because I wanted revenge. But because I wasn't going to walk into another trap without proof. And if she really was going to try and spin some new Melissa overreacted tale, I wanted the receipts. So we agreed. The dinner would happen the following Friday night. Her house. Just the three of us. I brought my own food. Let me say that again louder. I brought my own food. It was a single-serving container of chilled rice noodle salad, pre-sealed, with every ingredient labeled on the container. Diane opened the door wearing pearls and perfume, and immediately did a once-over of the Tupperware in my hands. You didn't trust me enough to eat my food? I smiled sweetly. You said you wanted a clean slate. I figured this was the cleanest way. She gave one of those brittle little chuckles and led us to the dining room. To her credit, the table was immaculate. No butter. No cheese. No creamy sauces. She claimed to have made grilled lemon chicken with a dairy-free rub and a mixed greens salad with vinaigrette. Ethan and I didn't touch it. He had a sandwich from a local deli in a to-go bag. I had my sealed salad. We sat down. And waited. She did small talk. Talked about Brandon's new job. Jordan and Taylor's engagement photos. The weather. Finally, Ethan said. So are you going to apologize? Or are we just pretending none of it happened? Diane sat her fork down, hands folded like a minister preparing a sermon. I've already said I regret how things happened. That's not an apology. She huffed. I said I was sorry. You think I wanted this drama? You think I enjoy being cast as the villain in my own family? You caused it, Mom. She shook her head, her voice rising just slightly. I'm not the one who manipulated an entire dinner to humiliate someone. Ethan shot back, you tampered with someone's food. That's not a prank. That's not a joke. That's malicious. Then, like clockwork, the guilt trip began. Do you remember how I stayed up all night with you when you had whooping cough at 6? Do you remember the birthday party I threw you when you were 9 and no one showed up? I raised you. I did my best. And this is the thanks I get? I let her speak. And when she paused to sip her wine, I calmly opened my purse, took out my phone, and said, just so you're aware, this dinner is being recorded. Diane froze. Her eyes darted between me and Ethan. What a why? That's illegal. We're in a one-party consent state. I can't believe you would. Because I knew you'd try to rewrite this. Again. Her face turned bright red. You are not part of this family. Ethan stood up. Then we're done here. She gasped. Wait, Ethan, sit down. Don't do this. You're not sorry. You're just sorry you got caught. And we're not going to be part of whatever pity story you're crafting next. Either you apologize, actually apologize, or this is the last time you see us for a long time. The next few minutes were tense. She pleaded. Then threatened. Then cried. Then accused. She went through every phase of manipulation like it was a well-practiced script. But in the end? No real apology came. Just more versions of, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You're overreacting. Melissa twisted everything. So we left. And this time, I told Ethan I was done. Done trying to prove myself. Done trying to earn this woman's respect. I had bent over backwards for 3 years trying to integrate into this family. But respect goes both ways. The next day, Diane went dark. No messages. No calls. Nothing. Until Sunday night, when she posted a Facebook update that read, "Some people forget who raised them. But that's okay. God sees everything. Especially betrayal." Cue the flood of DMs. But this time, people weren't siding with her. Craig commented, "God also sees manipulation. You should sit with that." Taylor commented, "We all saw what happened, Mom. Stop pretending." Even Brandon dropped in. "Or you could just say sorry like a normal person." No one was buying the martyr act anymore. After Diane's failed Facebook martyr post, things went eerily quiet for a while. No contact. No cryptic texts. No surprise packages. Ethan and I thought maybe, finally, she'd gotten the message. That she'd retreat, lick her wounds, and maybe, come back with something resembling growth. But we underestimated her addiction to being in control. A week later, she pulled her final card. Taylor called us one morning sounding pissed. Diane had contacted her and Brandon individually with the same message. A family meeting was being organized at Aunt Carla's house the upcoming Saturday. Family only. She said she wanted to clear the air, once and for all, in a neutral setting. Taylor said she wasn't going unless we went. Brandon said the same. Ethan looked at me. I was torn. I didn't want to go. But I knew what Diane was doing, setting the stage. Painting us as uncooperative, isolated, dramatic. If we didn't show, she could use that. If we did, she'd have to face what she started in a room where she wasn't holding all the cards. So I said, "Let's go. But we're not going to play nice. We're going to tell the truth." Saturday came. We arrived at Carla's around 5 p.m. The living room was already filling up. Aunt Carla, Uncle Dean, cousins, a couple of family friends. Taylor and Jordan were there, along with Brandon and Zoe. Diane was seated in the center, dressed like she was attending church, holding a tissue like she was just barely holding herself together. She stood up when we entered. "Thank you for coming," she said. Ethan just nodded. Carla opened the floor. "All right, we're here because this family's been pulled apart. We all love each other. But things have gotten tense." Diane asked for this chance to speak. "We've all agreed to be civil. So let's hear her out." Diane cleared her throat. "I want to say I never intended to hurt anyone. I've apologized multiple times, and I'm still being punished. I feel like I'm being exiled for one mistake." I opened my mouth, but Ethan touched my hand. "You haven't apologized. You've deflected, blamed, and turned it into a pity campaign." Diane looked like she'd been slapped. Ethan stood. "Everyone here should know exactly what happened. My mom secretly tampered with food she knew could make my wife violently ill. She admitted to doing it to test whether Melissa was faking her condition. And she only came clean when confronted in front of everyone." A quiet murmur rippled through the room. "That's not a mistake. That's premeditated. And it wasn't the first time. It's part of a pattern of control and manipulation. Some of you have seen it. Some of you have experienced it. And you know exactly what I'm talking about." Taylor spoke up. "Mom did the same thing to me when I was 16. She made me drink milk after I said it made me sick. I threw up, and she said it was in my head." Brandon. "She used to hide stuff in our food. Spices I was allergic to, just to toughen me up." Even Aunt Carla's expression started to crack. "Diane, is that true?" Diane looked cornered. "It was never that serious. I was just trying to raise strong kids. The world doesn't coddle people, and neither did I." Zoe scoffed. "You traumatized your children and now you're trying to make yourself the victim?" Then, something unexpected happened. Craig walked in. He hadn't been invited. Taylor had tipped him off. He stood quietly at the back until Diane saw him, and then her face turned to stone. He said, "I wasn't going to get involved. But after what I've heard, I think I need to set the record straight." And then Greg told his story. About how Diane used to slip him caffeinated drinks when he was trying to stay off coffee. How she mocked his anxiety, told friends he was just lazy. How she used food as control, guilt as currency, and the truth as a tool to be twisted. This is not a misunderstanding. This is a pattern. She's been doing this to everyone for decades. The room was silent. No one defended her. Not this time. Diane stood, jaw clenched, then said, "Fine. I'm the monster. If that's the version you all want, take it." She turned and walked out. Not another word. No apology. No breakdown. Just a retreat. We sat there in silence. Then Carla turned to Ethan and me. "I believe you. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." Taylor hugged me. Zoe gave me a look like, "Damn, that woman really tried it." Brandon apologized for not speaking up sooner. And just like that, something shifted. The narrative had cracked for good. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, Diane's gone no contact. Deleted her Facebook. Radio silence. We don't miss her. Taylor's planning her wedding and asked me to help with food selections, everything inclusive, allergy aware. Brandon's working on his boundaries in therapy. Greg's talking about starting a podcast about toxic family dynamics, because of course he is. And Ethan? Ethan told me this last night. I feel like I got unbrainwashed. I didn't realize how much control she had until I saw it through your eyes. I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I told him the truth. You stood by me when it mattered. That's what counts. So, Reddit. AITA for setting a trap to catch my mother-in-law tampering with my food and confronting her in front of the entire family? Because from where I'm sitting, it feels like it was the only way to get the truth out. And the truth? It's a hell of a lot easier to digest than whatever she was trying to serve me.